Council. Now, you're going to say, I didn't know all that had to do with the rural lands. But when you think about pole shift, you'll see why. The first member of the Rural Council is the Department of the Treasury, then the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, the Department of the Interior. Well, okay, that's where agriculture is. So I can understand number 4, the Department of the Interior. Then the Department of Commerce. Okay, you ship the food around. Then the Department of Labor. Okay, you're going to hire some people. Department of Health and Human Services. Well, you know, what if they're not manufacturing the food up to certain standards? This is all what you'd be thinking why he's doing this. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Oh, so now we're going to be regulating housing, too. Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, Department of Education, Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Homeland Security. Yes, your farm. Department of Homeland Security is now in charge of it. The Environmental Protection Agency, and, of course, you know how important radio waves are to growing crops, the Federal Communications Commission. So there you have it. There is a brand new White House Rural Council, and what they're going to do is try and place people that survive the New Madrid Fault, the widening of the St. Lawrence Seaway, and the earthquakes in California that devastate the agricultural land. They're going to try and take these mass mobs, declare martial law, and move people out to empty houses. Or if you might just be sitting, I mean, one of your listeners at least is going to have this happen to them. The government's going to come and say, here's 5 new families that are moving into your house. I don't care if you all fit in that house. This is your new home. They're your new roommates.
Okay, I'm not liking that.
Well, I mean, you know, in the worst of circumstances, you're going to want to help somebody, but you might not want to help who the government tells you to help.
You know, and so you're saying that is direct evidence that they know a pole shift is coming, and so they want to be able to take everybody's stuff from them and reallocate, probably to their stuff.
This gives those agencies the total power to do anything they want with rural America.
Which is, rural America is the last bastion of freedom, I'd have to say.
Well, I'd like to tell you some of the other agencies that are involved in this Rural Council. Are you ready? Now, you've got to be listening while I say this. You have to be listening of how they're going to fit into the Rural America Plan. The Office of Management and Budget, the Office of Science and Technology, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, the Council of Economic Advisors, the Domestic Policy Council, the National Economic Council, the Small Business Administration, the Council on Environmental Quality, and the White House Office of Public Engagement and Intergovernmental Affairs. I have no idea what they do. And the White House Office of Cabinet Affairs. And, get this, such other executive branch departments, agencies, and offices as the Secretary of Agriculture may designate from time to time. So you see, what they're doing is they're giving this new Rural Council the total power with all agencies to coordinate anything they want to do with rural America.
Okay, now I'm not liking it. Well, it seems to me that they're going to have to do something with the people's ownership of guns. You got anything on that? When are they going to take them?
Well, no, it's just, you know, you've got Homeland Security is agency number 13 out of 25. Just sits right on the top of the heap there. As you make 2 columns, Homeland Security's on the top. So this is the thing, is they're not admitting it. NASA's not going to talk about the pictures they're taking, and yet all the plans are moving forward. Well, this is the first actual plan that I can think of that might be designed to help anybody, because their other alternative was to do nothing, and when pole shift happens, just call out the troops, which we're just bringing a lot of troops back to put on duty in the United States right this minute. We're moving tanks around and armored personnel carriers, artillery, and bullets and shells, all kinds of stuff. We're moving all over the interior of the United States right now.
Really?
There's been a lot of news on the internet about that. But so if there was going to be pole shift, the one thing you could figure is the troops are going to come out, declare martial law, and if you don't do what they say, you'll be shot. So now we have something with the Department of Agriculture and all these other agencies that are going to coordinate farmland and food growing. So I'm not saying anybody would like that, but I can't think of anything else that the government's done that indicates that they are willing to do anything humanitarian. If you call this humanitarian, because martial law I wouldn't call humanitarian, but you know, there's going to be a bad situation, and I have no doubt there's going to be riots. And probably anybody listening realizes if we really are going to have pole shift, then there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be angry, and they're going to, you know, start raping, looting, and robbing.
Well, now you're up there on that mountaintop there, Gordon. And obviously you're going to be safe. If people start coming up your mountain, are you going to hand them the goods, or are you going to pull the trigger?
Well, I'm not going to pull the trigger, but I don't have any goods for them to steal, so I'm going to move on. But this is going to be an island after pole shift, so they're going to have a boat and know how to go on salt water to get to me, and that's after a 600-foot tidal wave. And you saw what the 33-foot tsunami did in Japan. So imagine a 600-footer.
Okay, and that 600-foot tidal wave's coming from what?
Well, as the Earth spins, believe it or not, all the water accumulates around the equator. So if the crust detaches from the core and it stops spinning, all the water heads back to the poles. Then when the crust reattaches, now all the water's in the wrong place. So it's going to sweep back towards the equator on all sides of the globe at very high speeds and bring in a 600-foot tidal surge for the entire Earth. And as 50% of the world's population, at least, I think more, but I've heard 50%, lives on the seacoast, this is very bad for at least half the population of the world.
Is there any information coming from the web bots on this pole shift?
I don't know. You know that guy who had the web bots, Cliff High, or is that who you're talking about?
Yeah. Try to get him on the show.
There's a video on YouTube where he admits the whole thing was a fraud, and he just made it up for as long as he could get away with it.
Really? It sounds like
he's sorry he misled so many people, but he had fun doing it, but then it made him sick, and he decided to stop.
Oh, okay. So he had a conscience, did he?
Well, he developed one. Yeah.
maybe he read his own web bot that said, you know, they're going to come and get you unless you come clean. You know, maybe he read his own web bot and that was in there.
Right. Well, what I want to say is, going back to the bees, I didn't hear the guy that did that thing on the colony collapse, but I'm a member of lots of bee groups, and we've been discussing that for the last 2 years now. And basically, I've taken an alternative method because a lot of these beekeepers are using chemicals from Monsanto, and they're following directions from DuPont, and I just don't like that, so I never did it. So I'm trying to talk to my bees. And I have a book that's very interesting if a lot of your listeners, because look, after pole shift, I don't care what Monsanto thinks they're doing now, after pole shift, there's not going to be any Monsanto. So if you have bees, you're going to want to be able to get along with them. And I have this great book, it's called The Shamanic Way of the Bee. And basically you tune into the bees and you talk to them. And that's what I do. That's how I work with the bees, is I talk to them. And we do that with animals too. I've been talking to some ravens lately. We were talking to a deer. We got it to come within 10 feet of our front door. It's a beautiful creature. I don't go hunting, but I'm sure it will be high on somebody's list this fall.
Okay, so you're talking to the bees and you're talking to the deer.
Yeah.
And are you hugging trees, Gordon?
No, I actually cut them down and burn them.
Oh, okay.
They do get even. I broke my nose with a tree. I had a full facial cast. That hurt. I think there is such thing as karma, but I try and use the Indian method to thank the tree for being there and telling it that, like this bear climbed up this tree, that when I put the beehives up on this cargo container, the tree was small, but the tree grew and the bear finally could climb it and drop down on the cargo container, and he ravaged my hive. So I had to cut that tree down.
Yeah.
You can't have them coming back.
Yeah. I had a lightning strike and hit one of the trees, and it fell right on a couple of my beehives.
Oh, you have beehives?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I've got.
So, do you use the organic methods?
Yeah, and as I was telling our last guest, George Langworthy, who has the DVD out there, The Vanishing of the Bees, I told him in the beginning, you know, I'm thinking, okay, what do I got to do? So I'm reading up on it. He said, well, you got to have this drug for the mites and that drug for the viruses, and so I tried it once, and I thought, this is crazy. If I got to give these drugs to the bees, I wouldn't want to eat the honey, so I quit doing it.
Smart man. That's exactly what I concluded.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So, yeah, and I know there's also a movement for going back to organic bee farming, and that's almost like an oxymoron, though. You know, you think, well, isn't it already organic? But no, there's a lot of beekeepers out there, they're turning to drugs. It might as well be like the farmers who put a cow in a stall and inject him full of, hormones, Who wants that?
Exactly. I mean, they've got everything now, artificial pollen, so you can remove the pollen so the bees don't have that. They take the honey out for the whole winter and give the bees sugar. I mean, I gotta leave enough honey in there for the bees to survive the whole winter. Other people were telling me their hives were dead this spring, or that they had 5,000 bees, and I let them have all their honey, probably about 150 pounds of it. In this spring, when everybody else had dead hives that were barely surviving, I had 80,000 happy bees.
Mm-hmm. Now I tried singing to them, but they start disappearing.
Oh, that's what would happen if I tried singing. I have an awful singing voice. But the point is, you've got to figure out, if you're in a good, safe area up above the coasts, and you're not going to be taken in by a 600-foot tidal wave, then, and you have beehives and other things, you've got to figure out how you're going to eat. And beehives and chickens are like the easiest things to start, and they're very rewarding. It's like, at my meetings that I go to, there's like a guy, I was talking to him, and I thought, well, he's got to be in his late 60s, early 70s, and he goes, well, I've been beekeeping for 90 years, and his wife said, yep, since he was 7. And, this is, he drove his pickup truck with his wife to the meeting, and I'm sitting there talking to him, and he's 97 years old. And, the last 27 years of that, I found it hard to believe. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of things like this are not only beneficial to the bees, but they're beneficial to you. And if there's no other food, where are you going to get it? So honey is a marvelous food. Mm-hmm. And another thing, like people talk about, well, if they're injured, well, where's the doctor going to be? What drugs are they going to get? There aren't going to be any. I just started using colloidal silver, and I love it. I can't recommend that enough to people. Colloidal silver kills viruses, fungus, and bacteria. And it costs you like a couple of pennies a day to make on your own. And if you go to the health food store, like a quart bottle is like $30 or $40. So why wouldn't you spend a few pennies and make it yourself? Mm-hmm. But things like that, people have to learn. I was surprised when the doctor wouldn't give me antibiotics, and I looked up on the internet. And if you have a fish farm, you can order a 50-pound box of tetracycline for like $50. So you don't, and they don't ask you if you have a prescription. You just say, yeah, I got my fish farm, I want to treat it. Mm-hmm. So, but the thing is people have got to be self-sufficient, because this is absolutely happening. Mm-hmm.
And I understand that bee pollen is the only food known to man that a human could live on solely.
Well, see, they take nectar and make honey. And they take the protein out of the flower, the pollen, and they put that in separate cells in the hive. And pollen is protein. Mm-hmm. So you could live off bee pollen. Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Somebody has a question here. Said, can you elaborate on your alien contact?
Yes. This executive order that Obama signed was on June 9th, and June 9th is the anniversary of the first time ever that my wife and I called in a Zeta ship and had it in our yard for 20 minutes. And
you called it in?
Called it in. She dreamed that both of us were on a ship, and I was talking to some tall, hooded extraterrestrials who didn't want to show their faces. And they were giving me information, and later I've learned that the ones who do that, who didn't want to show their faces, and they were giving me information, and later I've learned that the ones who do that are the ones that they're actually human flesh, but they take the hood off, they look like a praying mantis, but they're not an insect. They actually are human, and they're very telepathic, and in the groups that are here on Earth now, they're like the scientists and the mathematicians and the advanced telepaths. And in her dream, I was talking to them. They were giving me information, and she was like just biding her time because she's not interested in technical stuff. And she said, when you get a chance, instead of just seeing you in my dream, could I see you physically? And as she said those words, she woke right up and went downstairs and looked through the door, and there was a 35-foot orange disc in our yard. And she came running back upstairs and said, there's a saucer in the yard, there's a saucer in the yard. So I got up and we went out, and there it was. And you could see it was nickel, it looked like the color of nickel, like a satin nickel. And the air around it was ionized orange and red. And it was like a boated anchor. It was sitting above this maple tree, and it was rocking gently like you had a boated anchor out in the harbor, and there's a gentle breeze, and the boat just goes up and down a little bit. It was rocking like that, and when it tilted a little bit, you could see the dome on top was also this nickel metal. There were no windows, and the air around the dome was ionized red, and the disc itself was ionized orange. So I know people that have asked to see extraterrestrials or to see their ships in person and then have never seen them like that. But I'm talking maybe when we walked over and we looked up, we didn't want to walk directly under it because there was a tree there, and we wanted to see it. So I'd say it was probably 75 feet from the house, and we probably walked up to where we were 35 feet away from the trunk of the tree, and it was directly over the tree. And this is in a fishing village at 4 in the morning in the summer when everybody's getting up to go on their lobster boats. Nobody ever told us that. I never heard a report of anybody seeing anything, and of course we didn't report it because these days when you see a saucer, who are you going to report it to, and do they care?
Yeah, who are you going to call? That's the thing right there. So when the pole shift happens, man, are some of these ships in orbit? You know, you got 600-foot wave coming through there. They're going to hit the mothership if it's in low orbit, won't they?
No, this is a third-dimensional event, and they're fourth-dimensional. So they've got to sort of wink in to be here and to be seen, and then they got to sort of wink out. So that's why you get these really strange reports where somebody says, well, I saw this little disc, and I went on it, and it was about half a mile long.
Yeah. So,
you know, what's one thing looks like one thing on the third dimension might look like something different on the fourth dimension.
Okay, so they're coming in from another dimension.
Yeah, they're coming in from the dimension the Earth is going to move to in about 100 years or less. And this is 100 years after the pole shift. So probably, I don't know about you, but I'm 62, so I probably won't live to see that. But my wife can actually see things on the fourth dimension, which I can't. I can talk to them. I can ask them a question. And I only do that to help other people. Like if there's somebody that I think could be helped in some way, I ask them if there's something they can do. But
so are you saying your wife
been around in our life enough that that I know they're there and they hear me, because I've asked them to help my wife when she was 20 miles away, and within a few seconds of saying that, 4 Zetas walked right through her wall and sat on her bed while she was in bed, and she saw them do that. So, you know, and when I saw her, she goes, "You're not going to believe what happened. I was sitting in bed, I was feeling a little bit depressed, and 4 Zetas came in, they sat on the edges of the bed, and I immediately felt better." And I had asked them to do that, not particularly to come through the wall and sit on the bed, but I had asked them to help her, and they had. So I don't make any requests for myself, but I do request for other people. And there have been people who have said, well, can you help us see ETs or have some contact or something? And I said, well, I can ask, but, you know, I'm not in charge of a whole starship. Who knows how many people are available or what they might think of what I ask, but my wife's brother, he asked that, and for the rest of his life, he had blue spheres coming through his wall about the size of a soccer ball. They're sort of like a cotton ball in blue, and they just come right through the wall and buzz around the room and go down the hallway, and he could never get his hands on them, and he didn't feel any threat. He felt like this is like some sort of spiritual energy or something.
Well, Gordon, let's see if we can tie a couple of events together with this pole shift and aliens coming down. And then in Washington, we have this big debt ceiling debate. Isn't that just moot? I mean, aren't they just wasting time if all this is broken down?
Oh, Daniel. Well, I call it rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, the thing is look at what's happening in Africa. The European nations are desperate to capture Libya. You've got to realize Gaddafi was one of the greatest friends the United States has ever had. You've got to realize he's gone along with everything that any Western power wanted. He's let them have oil. Libya is the wealthiest, best educated, most middle class country in Africa, and we're part of it, of course. NATO's invading North Africa. So you got to ask yourself, what in the heck is going on with that? And the reason why is the European governments, just the way the Obama and the White House is reading Zeta talk, the European governments are reading it too, and they're looking at the map, and all of northern Europe is going to be underwater. Mm-hmm. The wave is going to be channeled in these valleys and actually go over the mountain passes in Switzerland and fill some of the interior valleys of Switzerland with salt water. So they have no place to go. So they don't want to be in Egypt because that's going to be underwater. Mm-hmm. And there's no way they could take Algeria and Morocco from the natives. That would be like trying to take Afghanistan from the Taliban. Forget it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So their best shot is going ashore in Libya and then going to the interior highlands of North Africa that's in the south part of Libya. And these are the kinds of things that are happening right in front of our faces. Why are we in so many wars? Why have we had an army in South Korea since, 1951? Mm-hmm. We've had an army in Germany. The German people have wonderful social services. No wonder they don't have to pay for any weapons or a Department of Defense. Our army has been in Germany since 1945. Mm-hmm. We're the ones defending them, so they don't have a defense budget. How do you like that?
Okay. Well, Gordon, since some aliens obviously are of the mantis strain, is it possible there's some aliens, say like in a bee strain instead of a mantis?
Oh, there's like little aliens that are jellyfish and stuff. They can't even build a saucer, and they certainly couldn't board one and fly anywhere. If they aren't taken somewhere in a fish tank, they don't get there. So actually, there's thousands and thousands of types of extraterrestrials. Some of each type are bad and selfish, and some are unselfish. So it's the same up there as down here. You really can't look for any place in the universe that doesn't have somebody trying to cause trouble.
Somebody wrote in, want to know if you heard that FEMA just got a contract for $40 billion worth of dehydrated food.
Oh, I know more than that. First of all, it was $1 billion. Second of all the freeze-dried manufacturers stopped producing for the public and produced just for FEMA.
Well,
and
no good
when I was in New Mexico in April, I met somebody who lives next to Kokomo, Indiana, and that's where the huge government bunkers are. There's two places where they intend to continue martial law, and that's Kokomo, Indiana, and Denver, Colorado. And they live near the entrance to the tunnels under Kokomo. And they said tractor trailers with freeze-dried food were lined up right over the horizon, bringing that $1 billion worth of freeze-dried food into the bunkers under Kokomo. Now, I had thought, okay, they're getting ready for the New Madrid fault, and isn't that nice? When 40 million people are homeless, they're going to take this freeze-dried food and feed them. But now I realize, no, they're not. That's for the government, for the troops, for the elite, for the rich, for the powerful, the military-industrial complex. That's to protect their own.
Well, I'm going to find out what there are, and I'm going to take their stuff, man. So you're saying that the freeze-dried food makers have stopped making food?
Yeah, there is no. Well, I don't know if they've completed their orders, but this was a while ago. This was, I don't know, still in the winter when they got the order for $1 billion worth of freeze-dried. And you don't say to FEMA, well, I'll do it later. FEMA said, this is now.
Wow. So now you are. And I think, I don't know if I was talking to you about this last time you were on there, Gordon, but if you grow your own food, it takes months for food to grow. So if there's an event and you're getting washed out, with 600 foot of water, your garden ain't going to grow pretty much under the sea. So,
well, that's right. That's why you have to be inland. But the other thing is that the Zetas have said that when pole shift ends, it will be the equivalent of August. So here in the United States, we're still going to be in the northern hemisphere, and August is not a time to plant any crops.
mm-hmm.
So we're going to be warmer than we were because the North Pole is going to be further away. It's going to be 100 miles northeast of Recife, Brazil, out in the Atlantic Ocean, just offshore of Recife, Brazil. So the whole western half of the country from the Mississippi west is going to be almost tropical, very rainy and nice. So there won't be any severe winters, so it's possible those people may actually be able to grow something. And people that have greenhouses and other ways will be able to. But those first 6 months are going to be pretty tough because if pole shift ends and it's August, it's not going to be a pretty picture.
What's going to happen to the UK? Are they going underwater too?
Well, they're going underwater even before the pole shift. There's going to be.
Sorry.
Listen, I got to tell your listeners, there's the greatest free program you've ever seen. I mean, I can't believe it's free. It's called eQuake 3D. Look that up. Download it. It shows the Earth, and you can control the speed the Earth rotates. You can change the angle that you're looking at, and it shows every earthquake. And then you push Now. There's a little button called Now, and it shows any quakes that have happened since the last time you pushed it. And it's a beautiful screensaver. But
what's it called?
eQuake 3D.
eQuake 3D. Okay.
eQuake 3D. It's a free download. It takes 2 minutes to install it. It's 800K. You guys are going to love it. If you ever liked computer graphics, this is just going to blow your mind. And you see all the earthquakes on the Earth, and you can make the rings for each quake bigger. You can go back a week or just have today's quakes. You can illustrate them with lines from the sky, and you'll see that there's the most earthquakes every day are happening in the Puerto Rico Trench and west to the Central American area of Guatemala and southern Mexico.
Okay, so
but the Great Atlantic Rift is having some big quakes up in Iceland, down in between South America and Africa, and you can see them on this eQuake 3D. And what's going to happen is the rift is going to widen, and when it does, it's going to send a 300-foot wall of water over the UK, which is going to continue because the southern UK is completely lowlands. Excuse me. And then it's going to wipe out Denmark and all the Baltic lowlands. So the Prime Minister of the UK, Cameron, keeps having these meetings that they call the Baltic Economic Council. But it has nothing to do. Once they close the doors, they're talking about, listen, would Sweden be willing to take all the people from Denmark? Answer, no. Would Norway be willing to take all the people from Denmark? Answer, no. Would Russia be willing to take the people from the lowlands of Poland and Germany and Lithuania? No. So nobody wants to help anybody. So everybody's going to be stuck exactly where they are now, and this is going to happen even though the powers that be have known of this for 60 years. It's going to happen, and the thing is, if you don't help yourself, if you don't take what I'm telling you seriously and look into it for yourself, you could be one of those people that's like, oh, damn, he was right. Why didn't I listen to him? Why didn't I do something?
Well, you've obviously taken precautions, but I'm going to get back to your wife calling UFOs down on demand. Can she get information from them?
She gets feelings like she was asking them about the future, and she doesn't get words like I do, but she gets pictures, and all she could see was this overwhelming picture of water, just water coming right up the side of the mountain. Actually, I think right now I have to walk 2 miles to the ocean, but soon I'm going to walk about 1,000 feet.
Well, I mean, you don't know that for sure, do you?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because I was sort of guided to get this mountain.
Well, I mean, you don't know that for sure, do you?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because I was sort of guided to get this mountaintop, and it wasn't easy. It took me 15 years of asking. He kept saying somebody bought it and he was going to build up here, and he never did, so I kept calling the realtor every 3 months. And he goes, what don't you get? Let me sell you something else. I go, no, that's my dream. And 15 years later, he goes, you must be the luckiest damn guy in the entire world. He goes, you're not going to believe it. The guy put it back on the market 2 seconds ago, and I still have the phone in my hand from from talking to him. And I said, well, I'll take it. And that was that.
But you said it was hard to get, but you said they told you to get it, then it was hard to get. Well, it seems to me if the Zetas or somebody wanted you to have it, wouldn't they make it easy for you?
Well, no, they can't. They don't intervene. See, if they intervene in human affairs, then they're responsible for every little thing that happens after that. So they don't just go around accumulating karma. They got better things to do.
Mm-hmm. Question from Australia. Do the Zetas clone celebrities or make celebrity androids?
No, they don't. Nobody does that. But what's interesting is they go around and they have picked the most emotional people on the whole planet, and they have bred a hybrid race with them because the Zetas thought in their past they destroyed their planet, and they said, you know what was wrong was feelings, and you know what really caused the biggest problem with that was sex. So let's just clone ourselves, eliminate sex, cut out all emotions, and become very telepathic, and everything will be perfect. And then they realized when the cloning started failing, oh, we made a mistake. And then they realized that we had 100% match to their DNA. So they started this hybrid race. And when we go to the fourth dimension, every single person that reincarnates will be reincarnating as a hybrid and will live 400 years, have an IQ of 300, be very emotional and warm and empathetic, very sexual, and will have an IQ of 300 and just be in touch with all kinds of other people and information. So
you say there's going to be
it's going to be
aliens?
A different world, but one in which there will be no selfish people.
Did you say there's going to be sex with aliens? Did you say there's going to be sex with aliens? I thought I had to go by. What did you?
Well,
say?
it's going to be hybrids. The hybrids are alive now. My wife has had many Zeta babies, and they have come to take her up to see her babies. They've stayed in her body about 6 weeks, and how they raise them after that, I have no idea. But they come back and take the fetus after 6 weeks.
Are you saying the Zetas are doing the nasty with your wife? Are you saying the Zetas are doing the nasty with your wife?
No, because see, she was fixed, so she still has her ovaries, but she doesn't have a fallopian tube. So having sex with her wouldn't get you anywhere if that's what you're looking for as babies. No, they took eggs out of the ovary with a needle, and in a petri dish, mixed it with a Zeta sperm, and then implanted it in her for a 6-week period. But it is her egg, and it is her baby, and she has been brought up to play with them so they get to know their mother.
And you're letting them do that to your wife? Why don't you go for the ride and bust one of you guys in the mouth?
Well, they're not having sex with her, and
they're molesting her. They're molesting her, though, Gordon. Dang.
See, Daniel, look. They have integrated minds. They don't have these layers like superconscious, conscious, and subconscious that humans have. Yeah. So when they look at somebody like you, they're thinking, wow, it's like a bomb went off. Because in your subconscious, you're saying, love hurts. I know you love me, so how are you going to hurt me? In your conscious mind, you're saying, you can't abduct and kidnap me and do what you want with me. That's illegal. I'm going to report you. And your superconscious mind says, we're all one with the Creator. We're both souls. How can I help you?
Well, I almost
Listen, all of this stuff is in Zeta Talk. If somebody is interested in anything that I'm talking about, go to zetatalk.com and read about it. There's 39,000 pages there of questions asked by the public that have been answered by Zetas, and put every week more questions are asked and more answers are given. You could be one of the ones asking one of the questions. If you have a question, ask them yourself.
I'm sorry, Gordon. I talk about the aliens and the sex and all that, and I was just thinking, a bee almost had sex with me because I was messing with my hives, and I was done, and of course I got the bee suit on, and of course I got jeans underneath that, and then when I had the bee suit off, I started feeling like a vibration in my pants, and the vibration was getting close to the area, and I was thinking, what the hell? And I threw my pants off, man. He almost got nailed, man. That was scary.
Well, I could have
had little bee babies. I don't know what. It'd be creepy, whatever,
Well, I had
is that what we're talking about here?
Honey in my hand, I didn't realize, and I wiped my blue jeans, and I wore the same blue jeans the next day, and I'm like, what in the heck are these bees following me around for? Well, they know their honey, and they want it back. And it's funny. Bees really have personalities. They're just like little animals. They're like, I mean, I don't have a flock of chickens or something, but I've had at times up to 7 cats, and it's like a herd of cats. You know, you don't really tell them what to do, but if you're nice to them, you can get them to go with you on a walk. You know, they all have different personalities.
Yeah.
Somebody
said if I did get stung, I wouldn't need Viagra.
My wife and I have taught ourselves to talk to animals. And
well, then
we
the
went
Indians
to a
did
fair,
that.
and there was a woman there who was animal whispering, and we're like, wow, we got to learn to do that. You know, so you have to learn to tune your mind to bee mind, or your mind to a mule mind, or your mind to a deer mind, and that can be done.
A lot of crazy stuff going on there.
Well, yeah, I mean, but see, if you're empathetic, you're always thinking, what are other people thinking? How are they doing? And you're tuning into them. Well, it's the same tuning in for animals.
I recently gone. I don't know. You know, this has got to be the most original show ever because we're tying bees in with aliens. But I had this one hive that was so scary and so angry that they would chase me around the yard. Now, you talk about the bees having and animals, and you're not too far up because the Iroquois and the Cherokee, they all believe in talking to the animals. So and possibly the plants too. In fact, I think there's a legend with the Cherokees that says that diseases came upon the earth because man was doing something to the earth, and so the plants got together and decided to help man. They, by telling them which herb they should take to heal their issues. But this angry mob of bees was chasing me around the yard, so I had a master beekeeper come over, take a look, and start chasing him around. And we were thinking that they were Africanized, so we sent some bees to Tucson University and to Purdue University to see. And of course, now the preliminary thing is they were European. Now, I know the Europeans are mad right now because they're being overwhelmed by Muslims, and so they're mad. They got
Muslim bees.
Yeah, not just Muslims in general, because
that's scary. I've heard a lot of scary things today. I get a lot of emails, and I read a lot of really interesting things, and some of it's scary.
Yeah.
But
what's the scariest thing you ever?
Scary. I'm going to have nightmares about that, Muslim bees.
Yeah. Well, they're strapping on bombs and taking them into, different places. They're putting the bombs
I know, and all the bees that do the pollinating are female. They're all going to be wearing burqas.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And you get those bees at a certain time of the month, man. It's going to be hell over there. 60,000. You said you had 80,000 bees? Wow. They're coming at you, man. So Gordon, we've got the alien contacts. Why don't they give us the technology to save the human race from this 600-foot tidal wave and the pole shift is going to put a lot of people down there in the octopus's garden?
Well, the thing is, after the pole shift, they're going to help the survivors if they're unselfish. They're actually going to come down and give them some batteries and probably some inverters and some other stuff. I don't even know all the stuff they're going to do. But they are planning to help people, but they have to wait until all the governments collapse first.
Yeah.
But listen, I promised you last time I was going to talk about what NASA's been up to all these years for 60 years, and I didn't even get to discuss that tonight. But I hope you'll have me back.
Well, I'll tell you what, we had a video stream issue, so we're going to run the show a little bit further along. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about that, if you got the time? We can do it.
Okay, yeah.
All right, we're going to go over.
Yeah. What I wanted to say is that I just found out that for the whole 60 years the United States has had a space program, the entire thing, all of it, not any part is left out, was for one reason, which was to save the elite and the powerful and the wealthy so that they could come back as kings of the earth after the pole shift. And they have had the most ridiculous plans. One plan, which they implemented, which luckily the unselfish ETs have prevented, in the last 10 years, every single satellite launched by the United States and Russia has been designed with nuclear bombs on board, H-bombs, and they were all aimed at Planet X, and they were going to come in through the atmosphere and blow up together. The space station was designed to be the master control for synchronizing all these satellites, and they were going to try and blow Planet X out of its trajectory to keep pole shift from happening, to keep the third dimension from changing to the fourth, to keep from having open contact with ETs. And a couple of them were aimed at Jupiter. One of them crashed on the backside of Jupiter, and that was because it was loaded with hydrogen bombs. And the unselfish ETs, I mean, the Anunnaki are not going to just sit there and watch Earth launch nuclear bombs at them. So they would just come back and just destroy us. So it was the stupidest idea, but they've actually been doing it. And all our satellites, like the Cassini probe and Galileo and all these other probes, all were loaded with H-bombs, and they were planning to aim them at, have them on these various projects, and then at one moment notice, coordinate them all and have them all in a synchronized fashion come through the atmosphere of Planet X and supposedly knock it out of its orbit, which it wouldn't do because it's 4 times the size of Earth, and we don't have enough nuclear bombs to move it anywhere, but we sure would piss off the people that live there.
I see the live chat's going crazy. They're all screaming, when is the pole shift?
Okay, we're in 7 out of 10 now. 10 out of 10 is pole shift. 7 of 10 will be complete, which is what we're in now. It'll be complete when Japan is shattered, and within hours the New Madrid fault goes off, and then within hours of that the Atlantic rips wider, and the rift widens and sends a 300-foot tidal wave towards England. At the same time, the northern part of South America is going to move west into the Pacific. When all of that happens, that will be the end of 7, and we'll move to 8 out of 10. And 8 and 9 out of 10 are basically large earthquake affairs. And I'm talking quakes of 9 or 10.
So where are we
at
right now?
A lot of my buildings are built on runners, so they don't have foundations. They have a ring in the front. They're built on beams that are like runners. And I have a ring at the front of them, and I can take my tractor and hook a chain to it, and I can pull it to a location. And if it falls over, I can use the tractor to straighten it up again.
That's if your tractor doesn't get hit with an EMP pulse and it knocks out the ignition.
Well, it's diesel, so I don't worry about the ignition.
All right, man. Sounds like you got these bases covered there, Gordon.
Well, I've been thinking about this for a long time. So the ETs weren't going to help me with this, but when I said this is where I wanted to be, and I got a good feeling that this would be a safe place, and I felt that they were telling me it was going to be a safe place, then I decided to move ahead with trying to get it. And then it took me a long time to get it.
But you finally got it. So that's a lesson for all of us, is to persevere, and keep working toward your dream.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another thing I did, which is I never tell anybody my dreams, because as soon as you do, there are people that disparage it, and that takes away from it. So people would say to you, you know, you don't want to live where you're living now in this stupid fishing village I was in. And they said, do you know where you want to move? And I said, no, I haven't figured it out yet. So I was lying. I admit it. I was lying. But it was because I didn't want to share my dream with them, because any dreams that people have had, my other dream, which I never shared with anybody, was that I wanted to teach myself telepathy and get in contact with extraterrestrials. And just like I say, you can tune into your spouse, or if you have children, to your children, or if you have pets, to your pets. You tune into them. That's what I spent years doing, was trying to tune in to extraterrestrials. And they responded. It took me 20 years, but they responded.
Okay. Now, in a typical response, what is it? Does it come through an email, brainwave? Do they appear on your television, your monitor, or something? What is the actual communication? Does it come through an email, brainwave? Do they appear on your television, your monitor, or something? What is the actual communication apparatus?
Well, sometimes I'll go to bed and think about something, and I'll wake up and I'll just know what the right choice is, and I won't really know where I got it. But there's other times that I hear a very clear human voice, just like it was somebody in the United States speaking to me, standing next to me, except there's nobody standing next to me. But if you can take your finger, and I hope your listeners do this, put your finger behind the flap of your ear up against your head, and you'll feel a crescent-shaped bone there. Can you feel it?
Okay, yeah, I feel a bone.
There's a crescent-shaped bone.
Yeah, some kind of bone in there.
It follows the shape of the ear.
Okay, got it.
Well,
some kind of bone.
That's where, have you ever heard of the phrase clairaudience? It's where you can hear, ghosts or, other people on other dimensions speaking to you, or your guardian angels, or have you ever heard of that? Clairvoyance, clairaudience? Clairaudience is sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's the organ on your body where you receive telepathic messages.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
how does one teach oneself telepathy?
Excuse me. I spent a lot of time asking the extraterrestrials to contact me. I mean, I'm talking about every single clear night I would go for a walk outside and look up at the stars and say, would you please contact me? At the same time, my whole life I had you know that movie, The Sixth Sense, where the kid says, I see dead people?
Yeah.
Well, I've heard dead people, family members who have died. I've had them come back and just say, usually less than one sentence, but I hear it in their accent, using their vocabulary, talking about things they're interested in. Like this, my Uncle Mike, when he died, about 2 years later, I was working in my workshop and I heard him, clear as a bell, take care of your pop. Well, I never called my father Pop, and nobody I knew ever called him Pop. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know people who said to me, how's your pop? Mm-hmm. I just always called him, Francesco or my father or dad or daddy even, but never Pop. But Mike was the only one that ever said that. And then he had a wife that died of lung cancer, and she never smoked a day in her life, but she was very selfish. She brought my brother and me into a bedroom, and she said, when she married my father, and she goes, I just want you to know, you don't know me, I'm from Wales. Your father met me in London, but I just want you to know I'm very selfish. The only thing I care about is playing tennis and drinking champagne. And I just want to clear the air so you don't wonder later that you think I'm selfish. I'm telling you right now, I'm selfish. And within a year, she had lung cancer. And within a year of that, I heard her in her Welsh accent say, but I'm all right. So I had a lot of those kinds of things. I was going to get in my car and go somewhere, and I heard a clear voice say, go back inside and make another cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. And I thought, geez. So I went back inside and made another cup of coffee, and then I got the idea it was okay. And when I got about 20 miles from the house on the route I was going to take, there had been a horrific 3-car accident, and everyone was killed in all 3 cars. Oh. And if I had left when I originally planned, I would have been in that accident.
And so you felt like your clairvoyance, your telepathy,
clairaudience. That I hear people speaking.
Okay. Now, so during that time, did you put your finger behind your ear, and that's how you got the message?
No, I'm just telling you that's the part of your body that actually does the receiving of. Now, my wife doesn't hear these things like that, but she sees people. Like she was talking to a woman, and she said actually was at a psychic development course, and she was talking to this woman, and she said, I hate to say this, but there's this young 20-year-old guy standing behind you, and he has no face. And the woman's son had just been in a motorcycle accident and killed, and he wasn't wearing a helmet.
He was
thrown from his bike, and she could see him standing behind his mother.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, so she can see dead people and she can talk to the Zetas?
She can see them, yeah.
And how did she get how did she get all these magic powers?
Well, she went through years of abuse, which basically, you've probably heard this before, that people who have been abused just grow these antennae because she's got to be aware of where danger is coming. So before danger strikes, she's got these antennae now, and she gets this feeling. Now, listen, this is news. On July 6th, with her birthday, and she was saying to me that she felt electricity coming through the floor, burning her feet. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. And she was running around. Now, we have a concrete slab. And she goes, the wiring in this house needs to be checked. And I said, there is no wiring in this house. we're all living on extension cords here because I never had the money to build a house. So this is like the workshop that we're living in. Mm-hmm. And I said, there's no wiring in the floors. And so then as the night went on, she got more and more desperate. And she goes, I'm turning off everything. She's turning off the computers, the lights, the TV. I said, wait. And I'm following behind her, turning everything back on. And I'm like, geez, what am I going to do about this? So at 5 in the morning, the sun came up. At 5:05, she went out to the outhouse, and she came back in. And remember what I said about the bees waiting for her? Mm-hmm. Well, she feeds the birds, and the birds raise a huge racket. And if she hasn't fed them, they let her know, where's the bird seed? So she came back in, and she goes, something really strange. The birds are totally silent, and the only birds that I hear are whimpering. And so I went outside, and I agreed with her, and I go, wow, I wonder what's happening. And we came back in, and we're sitting in our living room, had coffee. At 23, an earthquake happened right under our house, and the burning in her feet stopped. So she is an earthquake sensitive. Mm-hmm. And a week later, she goes, I feel heat from that electric light bulb. Is that possible? And I said, no. And that was at night, and we went to bed, and the next morning, about 5 in the morning, a week later, there was an aftershock.
Doesn't sound like there's ever a dull moment around your household.
No, that's true.
You got aliens coming in there.
That's true. But listen, we're ready. Like if the aliens said, well, would you like to come with us and help us? We'd say sure in a minute. Mm-hmm.
Is your wife there?
Yeah, she's right here.
Does she want to speak for a second?
Sure.
What's her name?
Her name is Janet.
Janet, okay.
She's having a drink of water.
That's fine. That's fine. Obviously unplanned.
Okay. Here, have a seat, Bill. Say hi to Daniel. This is Janet.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Janet. Welcome to the Edge television broadcast.
Thank you.
Well, Gordon there is saying that you have some extraordinary talents or gifts or contacts. And it sounds like you're sitting there listening. Is that all true?
Yes.
Okay, so now do you talk to the Zetas or?
Well, let me just give you an example on the same one Gordon gave, but I'll give my point of view. On June 9th, 1991, I had gone to bed, and I had a clear dream. I was up on a saucer, and there was these very tall beings in hooded robes. Mm-hmm. And I was standing, Gordon was talking to them about his book that and they were trying to give him more information. Mm-hmm. So I was sort of more in the background, and I kept begging, telepathically, mind to mind, I wish I could see you when I was awake. I've been dreaming of you my whole life, and I want to see you when I'm awake.
Well, that was a dream, you see.
This is a dream.
Okay, right.
So, I noticed when I looked around, I could see a window. I didn't really get to see what was outside the window. It might have just been controls. And there was a man leaning against the spaceship because it was a curved spaceship, but he was not. He was asleep. So I didn't know who he was. So then I begged them. Through my mind, I said, I wish I could see you when I'm awake. So I just happened to wake up and I go, well, that was a cool dream. But I noticed my black cat was laying on my chest, and he never does that. So I felt like he was probably trying to hold down my astral body that was up on the ship. So I went downstairs. Everything seemed peaceful, and I went downstairs, and the screen door was closed, but the outer door wasn't. So it was getting cool in 4 in the morning. So I closed that door, and as I looked out, there was a ship in the yard. It was disc shaped, and I saw it mostly as just a silver disc. Gordon sometimes can see more colors than I can at times. Mm-hmm. So I go. First, I had asked him when I looked at it. I said, "Oh, could you please wait until I wake Gordon up because, you know, I was a little afraid. I go, where are they going to take me without somebody knowing? So I had a little fear, but then I went to wake Gordon up and I said, Gordon, there's a saucer in the yard. There's a saucer in the yard. And he goes, well, it might be the Northern Lights. But I said, no, it's not the Northern Lights. You got to come out. So I had asked the ETs to wait till I had woke him up and got him outside, and they granted that wish. And so we both went out. He looked out and he goes, oh, wow. And so we both went outside, watched it for maybe 10 minutes.
No, 20.
20, yeah, it was time just sort of disappears a little bit because you're so excited. You don't know exact time. But, so it was like canoe on water, the way a canoe on water moves. And it was completely silent. And, then as we watched it, we were thanking him. We were just so happy. And then it started going towards the west, very slowly. And,
just as about the sun was about to rise.
Just as the sun was about to rise in the east. So, so the next day, we were real excited. I wrote it all down in my diary, how excited I was. And then Gordon went over to visit a minister who also has seen UFOs, or believes in them.
And he said he had a dream the night before.
And he told Gordon he had a dream the night before that he was on a saucer. But he couldn't remember anything. So that sort of tied in with the fact that probably was who was on the saucer at the time that I couldn't recognize on the saucer, because it was another dimension, so you can't see everything clearly. So, so that sort of verified he was up there, we were up there, but I don't feel like they're anything sexual at all, even those, they might have been whoever they were, even, I'm sure there's bad ETs, but I didn't feel any sort of sexual, fear at all. It was not that kind of fear. It was like a love, you know, motherly love. When I have experiences with them, it's like a motherly love. It's unconditional. And I love dreaming about them. I absolutely love dreaming, and I love seeing them. Now I see them when I'm awake, and this wonderful person that deals with crystals, he could arrange a crystal just so where the Zetas came through for me. So I have a tendency to see the Zetas.
So what is it like to have the when you would visit your hybrid children? Gordon was saying that you had some sort of kids up there or something, hybrids.
Yeah, I have. I've had many dreams. Mostly it's in a dream state on the ship. I don't. It's another dimension on the ship. I don't. I don't deal with them here on Earth.
But when you see them, you say, "Oh, those are my kids over there." I mean,
they let me know. They tell me what their names are.
So do you birth them in some sort of other dimension?
Yeah, it's more of another dimension where it doesn't hurt.
Well, they come back after the baby's 6
and they
weeks
come
old.
back after the baby's about 6 weeks
you
old.
You stopped having your periods and you were lactating.
Yeah, I stopped having my periods and I was lactating. And
because
I would even do an afterbirth on the Earth plane, but not in the spaceship.
You were lactating because you had the motherly instinct to nurse your hybrid children.
Right.
Which you knew were out there and they were looking for mommy.
Yeah, that's right.
She was pregnant and she was lactating, and then she had this dream that these long-necked horses were leaning over her as she was on a table, and they did something. She passed the afterbirth, and that was 6 weeks into the pregnancy.
But it's not. There may be bad ETs that you can hear stories about women that have whatever. I don't know if they're fake or not. Bad experiences. I have no idea. But I have never had that experience of having a bad ET baby.
Okay, so these ET babies, they grow up and what? They go back down and look for other women or what?
What has happened over a period of time, this has been going on a long time, And now I've noticed, the last time that I clearly remember being up, one of the times I remember being up on the ship was in a classroom with the E.T. children and even one person from Earth and that I know well. He was there. Mm-hmm. And the children are looking more like us all the time. You know, they're getting longer hair. Mm-hmm. They're very smart, very smart.
Mm-hmm. They look like us.
They look more like us all the time now. I feel it's the more breeding they have done, the more they're looking like us.
Okay, so did you say that they had long neck horses?
Well, I see it. They do a screen memory, so when because it's when they come to do that, it's a screen memory. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I've had deer come. They know I love animals, so they do it in a way with animals to make it comfortable. Owls, deer. Sometimes they're odd-looking animals that aren't like of this earth.
Okay, so these animals are coming to you, and you're doing what with them?
The animals come to me, and
in dreams.
In dreams.
Okay, they're coming to you in the dreams, and while they're talking to you,
instead of seeing ETs,
your memory.
My memory is of animals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they soften up the contact by masquerading as a furry animal.
Excuse me?
I'm trying to make sense of the animals. What are they doing again?
Screen memory.
It's a screen memory.
A screen?
They don't let you a screen memory. They don't let you actually see what they look like because they do not want to scare people.
Okay, I think I got a picture of them in our background right now. So you're saying that they come to you as a furry, cuddly little animal, but they're really monstrous insectoid reptilians.
No, the ETs come to me. The Zetas. Are little grays.
Uh-huh.
They come to me in another dimension where I can see them, and they show themselves to me many times on the ships or on the Earth in another dimension because I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's because you can handle it, so they don't use the
I can handle that.
They don't use the
But I think with the screen memory with the animals is not to let me be scared when they're removing the child.
Mm-hmm.
Other than they don't want to scare other people.
So alien will come to you as a deer and remove the fetus from you. I mean, I'm trying to follow this a little bit more than...
Your memory's long-necked horses over you laying on a table.
Right. Well, you can say long-necked horses, call it what you want, but they just show themselves. I can accept any kind of animal. I love animals.
So, I mean, does it come in like a sheep and they go, bah, like that, and then you go,
no, it's a fourth dimensional thing. They come in pictures. Pictures in the mind. You gotta remember I'm dealing with another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of body when this is...
I'm out of body. I am in my bed, out of body.
Okay. All right. So, okay.
In the astral body.
Okay, you're in the astral body, and that's where a lot of stuff's going on, is in the astral plane.
Right.
Okay. And now, can you go there at will?
Yeah.
Go to sleep. When I go to sleep, I never know when it's going to happen.
Oh, you can't do it when you're awake?
In the dream state, I do it. I'm most relaxed then.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I do it. I do it in the day, regular wake hours, at different times, not automatically.
Does Gordon know that you're doing this when this is going on? When you're sleeping? I mean, do you levitate out of the bed or whatever?
Nope. I tell him.
No, she tells me, but I can't. I don't know what she's doing. But she has become a great psychic, and people will hand her physical objects, and using psychometry, which is holding an object, she will get pictures in her mind. So somebody will ask her a question. She doesn't know the person or anything about them, but when they ask the question, their guardian angel gives Janet pictures. And so Janet, in her mind, is awake, sitting at a table, and she's getting pictures like a TV screen, and she writes down what she sees, and those are the answers to the questions the person has asked. And I've seen her do that hundreds of, maybe thousands of times.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, all right. So now, can you? Is Janet, you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. So in this astral plane, can you get information from them? Say, like, take a question from this realm to them. They give you an answer, and you bring it back, and something happened, like, you know, either some substantial, like maybe knowing what the lottery is, when the exact date of the pole shift, whether or not Obama's a reptilian. I mean, is there any information that they give you that's worth us to know?
Well, I wish I could be more insightful, but it happens more. I don't get direct. I get it when needed. It seems like what I need at the time, or somebody that's close to me needs. Yeah. But I'm not a pure vessel of information.
Mm-hmm.
You get impressions.
I get impressions.
You wish you got something.
I can see auras around people, but the Zetas haven't told me everything, and probably I wouldn't want to know everything.
Okay, where are these Zetas at right now? I'm going to go talk to them.
I'm not technically interested. Like, you know, I'm older. The computers came later in my life, so.
Is there any number that I can call? I mean, how can I know that they exist?
Ask them.
Ask them. Go out on the night before the full moon and ask them. They can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now, go out.
Okay.
They can hear you. Speak to them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just come free will to you. You've got to ask. We have free will on this planet. They can't take away your. Yeah, they can't just contact us.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to ask to contact them.
Okay, so they obviously understand our technology. Hey, by the way, I've seen this pop up in the chat a couple times. How do you guys know that whether or not who you're dealing with might be something masquerading as a demon?
No, there's no fear whatsoever. It's just the most awesome spiritual feeling. I can't really describe how it's like a warm feeling of love. It has nothing to do with fear or authoritarian power or control or rules. All the things that you might think of as negative about a government, all those things are gone. And when you think about a god on a throne and all-powerful and maybe vengeful, none of those feelings, nothing like that at all. It's more like a oneness, like this is your family and they care for you, that kind of feeling.
Well, somebody in the live chat just gave me their number. I'm going to dial it here. Well, I don't know that I can get through it like that. Okay, somebody give me their telephone number. Okay, that's ridiculous. Okay, I got to do it like you guys do. So I go to sleep. I get in some kind of trance, and then I can. And as Janet says, I got to keep asking. Right? You got to beg them before they answer the beeper.
Well, they cannot contact you without your consent. So what you're doing is making the call.
Okay. Is this a free call?
That's a prerequisite to their contacting you. You've got to understand, if you remember what I said in the other show, that I asked the ETs to find me a partner on my wavelength, and I asked every night for a year, and I had a specific list, and Janet matches all the things I asked for, all of them. And there's no way that my circle would have ever intersected with her circle, except for that one night that I went out to lecture on UFOs, and then I met her. And she had been asking for contact all her life, and I had been asking all of my life. And so when we came together, that June 9th was the first time that we called in saucers into our yard at that time. And that was a Zeta ship. And we've been in touch with the Zetas ever since, and we've had all kinds of contacts. We've had the ship in our yard, and we've had the Zetas in our yard and in our house.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what. So you guys are saying that you basically asked the Zetas and you found each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so the Zetas brought you guys together, sort of like Okay, sort of like eHarmony, only it's it's E.T. harmony.
Zeta Central, I'd say.
Does that sound right? E.T. harmony?
Yeah. But see, I've seen other aliens too. I've seen the Nordic type with one green eye and one blue eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've seen humans from the Pleiades, and they could walk down any street, and you would not know they're from another planet. Same height, weight, appearance, everything, except they had gigantic white auras around them. But most people can't see that anyway, so.
Okay. So
it's far from being demonic. I don't like that whole.
You guys don't like the demonic thing, but I tell you what, somebody wrote in the live chat. They wanted to know, Janet, the preacher that you said was driving around on a spaceship. What religion was he or is he?
None.
No,
who is he?
I mean, congregational.
Is he a priest? Come on. Oh, the minister that was on the ship?
Minister.
Oh, yeah, he was a congregational minister, and it was really funny, too, because he was very selfish. His wife was bragging to me that she never ate out of a can, like, as if, well, my husband went to Yale, so we're so rich that we never have to, eat out of canned food like other people. We only eat fresh vegetables.
Okay, what's that got to do with what religion he is?
Well, I'm just saying he was a congregational minister, but he was one of the most selfish people I've ever known.
Okay, so why does he get a ride on a spaceship if he's selfish?
Well,
No,
he was asleep.
Sound like
he
you're
had on there asleep.
Oh, he was asleep.
He didn't remember when Gordon told him.
And I said, you're not going to believe what happened last night. Janet had a dream and asked to see a saucer, and then it was in our yard this morning. And he goes, I had a dream that I was on a ship last night, but he goes, I don't remember anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then Janet, you said that you saw in one of your escapades some people in some hooded robes. When you said that, I immediately thought priests. Now, there's not priests riding on these spaceships, are there?
I didn't quite hear that.
Well, you said you saw people in robes.
Oh, no, I didn't say priests. I said hooded. They were hooded beings, very tall.
That you never saw.
That I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. Very tall. They were a lot taller than Gordon and me. And we're 6'2". Gordon's 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
They were taller than him.
7 feet.
7 feet, and they had hooded robes on. Mm-hmm. They were very intelligent. They were giving Gordon technical stuff,
which I'm interested.
Which he's interested in, to write in his book.
Mm-hmm. I
do not have the technical interest like he does.
Well, see, I kind of put two and two together because when you talk about women getting impregnated or producing hybrid babies or something, automatically I'm thinking you got a guy in a hooded robe, automatically I'm going to think a priest. Right,
I understand that because if you don't see on another dimension, you're going to think all kinds of weird stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And
so
I'm
have you guys
saying I'm perfect. I've had to earn everything I've ever had. And like Gordon said, my antennae are out there because I was abused. And so nothing is a picnic in life. You have
post-traumatic stress.
I have post-traumatic stress. So nothing is a picnic for anybody out there. Nothing. Mm-hmm. I can have these things going on with the fourth dimension and being psychic, but you don't just get these gifts on the earth plane. You're just not automatically a magician.
Well, how do you know... clinically, how do you know that they're gifts and maybe you don't have some sort of alter personality that gifts and maybe you don't have some sort of alter personality that is...
Now, let me tell you something. I've been in therapy since I was 17, and I have psychiatrists say, you can talk about UFOs all you want. They believe in them.
So they don't see that you may have got an alternate... Most people that are molested, though, do have alternate personalities.
Well, I just want to tell you something. I've worked on my mental health since age 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not...
She has wonderful doctors now. That are in total agreement that can't get enough of us. They would wish that we would come in and talk to them every single day. That's how interested they are and how much they believe it. So There's no way that she's ever getting locked up for this kind of stuff. And we've gone to see some incredible psychics, and they've stood on the stage and talked about how their own parents thought there was something wrong with them because they talked to dead people. And then this psychic from Gary, Indiana, he turned around and he pointed. There was a crowd of about more than 100 people in the audience, and he pointed right at Janet, and he goes, "You were just like me."
Because I had my son at home, and I had an Indian guide in my room. I'm 1/8 Native American.
Janet, your doctors are not being provided by Obamacare, are they?
No.
I'm just saying, because you got to make sure you get the best of care, and you might not necessarily get that under Obamacare.
I appreciate that.
Well, they're not.
You've got to go through life with great faith.
Uh-huh.
Well, I can tell you, when we first started together 21 years ago, it was a lot more difficult. But now that you have, regular commercials on TV that have ETs in them, and you have all these movies and shows, and then you have the History Channel, it's like, people really are going, well, it makes sense to me.
Have you two ever tried to contact the ETs at the same time?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, we go out before the night of the full moon when we have a chance, and we try to contact them.
Okay,
We've had friends to go out with us.
The ETs are more accessible in a full moon, you're thinking?
The night before.
Not the night of the full moon, but the night before, when it's about 8 o'clock on the night before. For some reason, it seems like telepathy is a lot clearer. And I think it's because the sun and moon are on opposite sides of the earth, and the sun represents your ego, and your moon represents your personality, and the personality clouds most people's true selves. And for some reason, for 18 years, we had a group of up to 30 people at a time, and we would get together on the night before the full moon and call in saucers. And at the beginning, there were probably only 2 or 3 people out of the 30 that had seen UFOs or ETs or both. And after 18 years, almost everybody that ever was in that group did.
All right, so a lot of people can get together and work it out to where everybody's starting to see them.
Right, but it never happened. It never happened while we were together. Not even once. Once we saw a meteor zigzag, and the whole group was there. But right after a meeting, we were driving up the hill, and all of a sudden, and this is at an intersection in the deep woods where there's not even a traffic light. All of a sudden, it was like we were in Yankee Stadium, and we look up, and 100 feet above us was maybe a 200-foot long cigar-shaped UFO with rows of windows down both sides, completely lit up, rows of spotlights, banks of spotlights on the bottom, pointing down at our car, and the whole woods was brighter than daylight. And we looked up, we stopped the car, we got out, and this long cigar-shaped cylinder, it was a cylinder tapered at either end, with rows of windows on either side, just slowly passed over us at about probably between 5 and 10 miles an hour. And we watched that for about 15 minutes until it went off into the distance.
Okay, I think we're finally getting somewhere, because synchronistically, I just happen to have a picture in the background of a saucer going over a car with got windows in it, just exactly like you were describing. And I don't want to offend you guys. I don't want to offend you guys, but when you guys out there with the full moon, you didn't see a ET vampire or anything, did you?
No. We've never had anything negative or even discomfortable or upsetting or fearful ever. And we've had over 36 incidents. We've seen triangles, needles, spheres, silver balls, discs. I saw one that was just like a top hat that Abraham Lincoln wore.
Really? Wow.
I've seen triangular ones with a friend right up over the car. She saw it before I did, and I said I didn't see it because she was driving. She noticed it, and it was late at night. I said I didn't see that, but by the time we got about 30 miles away, or further on, it came right up over the car and stayed there. And we were both saying, "Oh my," she's seen UFOs too, and we both were going, "Oh my God, the Space Brothers and Sisters, let's follow him." But I said, you can't. Once they took off after another car was coming, they took off across the field. I said, you can't go across the field. So,
and then the mountains and the woods, too.
Yeah, and the mountains and the woods.
But Janet said that was the size of if you took 3 Trailways buses and parked them in a perfect triangle. That's how thick it was, and that's the size of the triangle.
Wow. And I'll tell you what.
It had lights along the edge and had a big red center, light red. It was red in the center.
Has either of you been able to look up and see Planet X?
No, we've been trying. I've been trying to take pictures reflected in water and direct pictures of the sunrise and sunset. And we haven't gotten anything that anyone else would say clearly there's something there.
So how come the Zetas aren't letting you guys see Planet X?
Well, you've got to remember, they've already said from the moment that the world sees it, when it finally gets free enough of the sun so you don't burn your eyes out trying to look at it, from that moment on, it's 7.3 weeks until pole shift. And it will take 3 days for the whole world to realize, oh my God, what's that? And during those 3 days, people are going to stop flying planes. They're going to stop showing up for work as a policeman or as a fireman or at the power plant or at the nuke plant. And all hell is going to break loose. There's probably going to be rioting in grocery stores and fuel stations, and it's just unimaginable what might happen.
Have you guys, either of you been able to take pictures of any of this?
We did get a saucer in 1994. It was almost bird-shaped. It looked like a certain angle of the stealth fighter. And we went up on this mountaintop, and we tried calling it in for an hour, and nothing happened. So I said, let me take a picture of you with the beautiful view of the mountains in the background. And it was with a film camera. It was in 1994. And then we stayed up there another hour calling him in, and nothing happened. It was a beautiful fall day. And 3 weeks later, we finished the roll of film and got it developed, and there in the sky above her head is a UFO. And we looked at it with a microscope on the negative, and it's a real metallic object, shaded exactly like everything else, and it's motionless. So we said, well, how come the camera took a picture of something we couldn't see with our eyes? Or do they have a sense of humor and they just materialized for the 125th of a second the lens was open?
Well, Janet and Gordon, we're getting near the end of the broadcast, but you guys, you guys do great together.
Thank you.
Oh, we feel like we were brought together by the ETs, and who would mess with that?